Blackouts have a way of revealing how fragile our comforts really are. One moment you're scrolling through your phone, refrigerator humming, lights glowing like everything's permanent. The next, the world goes silent. The darkness folds around you, and you realize just how much of your daily confidence is borrowed from electricity. And while most people worry about the inconvenience, what really puts them in danger are the myths they cling to, half-remembered tips that feel right, sound logical, and can get you hurt faster than the blackout itself. If you want to understand what truly keeps you alive when the grid gives up, you need to know which pieces of common wisdom are nothing more than traps waiting for the right moment to spring. You think you're ready for a blackout. Flashlight in a drawer, a few cans of soup, maybe a battery bank you haven't charged in 6 months. But the truth is, most people aren't done in by what they don't know during a long-term outage. They're done in by what they think they know. The myths handed down like campfire wisdom, repeated with total confidence, and absolutely capable of ending you when the grid goes down for real. And the first one is so common it should come with a warning label printed on every emergency kit sold on Amazon. Everyone believes a blackout is basically a short camping trip, some candles, a charged phone, and a cheerful attitude. But here's the part that should make you raise an eyebrow. Your brain lies to you in a crisis. It fills gaps with comforting assumptions because panic is expensive. So you default to what you've heard. And that's where myth number 1 comes in. The idea that candles are a harmless, perfectly reasonable way to light your home when the power goes out. Listen closely, because this one gets people every single year. A candle in a blackout seems innocent, gentle, almost nostalgic. And yet it's one of the leading causes of secondary disasters during outages. Your eyes adjust to the dim light, the flame flickers peacefully, and you forget that you are literally holding a miniature open fire hazard in a house full of stressed wiring, dry materials, leaking batteries, and people doing clumsy things in the dark. The danger isn't just knocking one over. It's the false sense of stability it gives you. Candles trick your brain into acting as if nothing is wrong. So you move faster, you get careless, and you don't think about the carbon monoxide building up if the ventilation is poor, or the fact that everything in a blackout, from the dust on a table to the sweat on your shirt, changes how quickly a fire spreads. If you truly need flame, a contained lantern with proper airflow is safer. But the real upgrade is LED light. It doesn't care if you're tired, panicked, or clumsy. It doesn't set your curtains on fire because you sneezed. And it won't betray you if the room gets crowded or chaotic. This section is based on practical field survival experience rather than formal academic sources. But candles are just the warm-up. Myth number 2 is more dangerous because it feels scientific. It's the idea that you can rely on your tap for a while, that your municipal water system is somehow immortal, and that as long as the lights are out but the pipes still cough out a trickle, you're fine. People trust plumbing more than politicians, and that says something. The problem is that water systems look tough, but they're fragile in all the wrong places. Pumps require electricity. Water towers require pressure. Filtration stations require monitoring. In a major blackout, especially the cascading type where grids fail in sequence, water doesn't politely stop, it degrades. It becomes uncertain. You might get pressure for hours or even days, and that tricks you into thinking the system is still alive. But what you're actually seeing
is the ghost of infrastructure momentum. The water was already in the system, already pressurized, already flowing. Once the reserve pressure leaks away, contamination sneaks in through cracks, backflow, or pressure reversals. That is when people start getting sick in the dark, with no ability to look up symptoms, no way to boil water if their stove is electric, no idea why their stomach feels like it's turning itself inside out. The smarter move is simple. Fill containers the moment the lights flicker. Bathtub, bottles, pots, anything. Because the window between working water and unsafe sludge is shorter than you think. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Once the system loses pressure, bacteria don't wait respectfully for a repair crew. They move in immediately, and they don't care that you thought you were being resourceful.
Then we get to myth number 3, the one that sounds heroic, macho, and extremely stupid if you understand how infrastructure actually collapses. It's the myth of the generator as savior. The great roaring machine in the garage that makes you feel like you've outsmarted the 21st century. You've got gasoline. You've got power. You've got a smug grin because, while everyone else is panicking, you can keep the fridge running and the house humming. Except generators are loud. Not just loud in a nuisance way, loud in a broadcasting your supplies to the entire neighborhood way. When a blackout shifts from inconvenience to survival scenario, noise becomes an invitation. Anyone within earshot now knows you have fuel, functioning gear, and probably food you're trying to preserve. And humans, when stressed, follow noise the way mosquitoes follow heat. On top of that, generator fumes build up in enclosed spaces far faster than people realize. Carbon monoxide has no scent, no color, no warning, and it binds to hemoglobin over 200 times more strongly than oxygen. That means once it begins creeping into your bloodstream, it doesn't leave politely. It sits there, suffocating your cells while you feel just a bit sleepy. Running a generator indoors, in a garage, or even near an open window is one of the fastest ways to turn an emergency into a tragedy. But the real kicker is fuel. Gasoline degrades. It loses volatility. Stabilizing it helps, but even stabilized fuel ages like milk in slow motion. In long blackouts, fuel becomes the currency of desperation, and unless you stockpile it correctly, cool, sealed, treated, and rotated, you end up with a machine that looks impressive, but chokes the moment you need it most. This section is based on practical field survival experience rather than formal academic sources. These 3 myths are the headliners, but they're not alone. The blackout is a clever predator. It doesn't attack directly. It waits for you to make small mistakes. One of those mistakes is trusting your electronics too much. People assume their phones will be their brain, their map, their memory, their hotline to civilization. But battery chemistry has no loyalty. Lithium-ion cells degrade in the cold, overheat in the heat, and lose capacity with every charge cycle. And when the grid goes dark, your phone becomes a timer ticking down the hours until you're blind to the world. The smart move is treating your phone like a match. Strike only when needed. Use the flame sparingly. Extinguish immediately. Download maps offline. Keep brightness low. Airplane mode on.
and carry a power bank that's actually been charged sometime in this decade. Better yet, have analog backups, paper maps, a notebook, a pencil. Your brain works better when it writes things down, and the more panicked you get, the more your working memory behaves like a sieve. Another myth is the classic, "The fridge will keep things cold for a long time if you just don't open it." And yes, that's technically true, but only for about 4 hours if it's full, and less if it isn't. The real trick isn't refrigeration, it's triage. Decide early what needs to be eaten first. Dairy and meats don't negotiate. Once they spoil, they become bacterial roulette. Prioritize perishables. Freeze bottles of water before an outage if you ever get a warning, and remember that an empty freezer warms faster than a full one. Ice acts as thermal mass, flattening the temperature curve, buying you time that most people waste by staring into the fridge, hoping the power will magically return. Then there's the myth of staying put no matter what, because home is safest. Maybe. Or maybe your home is a sealed box slowly losing temperature, covered in hazards you can't see, and located in a neighborhood that's turning desperate. Sometimes mobility is survival, not stubbornness. The key is knowing the difference. If you have water, food, ventilation, and the ability to maintain body temperature, staying is rational. If you don't, staying is slow-motion failure. Humans are adaptable, but only if they move before the environment corners them. The last myth is subtle and psychological. The idea that you'll rise to the occasion, that when things get bad, you'll become the best version of yourself. But unless you've practiced under stress, your brain reverts to training. And if your training is just binge-watching survival videos and assuming you absorb them by osmosis, you're in trouble. Reality is messier, darker, louder. Your fine motor skills degrade, your decision-making narrows, and you make rookie mistakes because your body prioritizes survival over logic. Practicing the basics, starting a fire safely, purifying water, using a radio, managing supplies, builds a muscle memory that cuts through panic. And knowledge without practice is just another myth dressed up as competence.
Blackouts strip away modern illusions. They don't care about your confidence, your assumptions, or your brand new emergency kit still wrapped in plastic. They reward preparation and punish fantasy. So the next time someone confidently repeats one of these survival myths, smile politely, but don't bet your life on it. Understanding the physics, biology, and human psychology behind a long-term outage is the difference between riding out the darkness and becoming another cautionary tale told by candlelight. When the lights go out, survival isn't about heroics or improvisation. It's about seeing through the comforting lies your mind whispers to keep fear at bay. The people who fare the best aren't the ones with the fanciest gear or the loudest generators. They're the ones who understand how fragile systems fail, how the body reacts under stress, and how quickly a minor inconvenience can turn into a chain reaction. If you can rethink these myths now, before the dark arrives, you'll already be 3 steps ahead of everyone relying on wishful thinking. Preparation isn't paranoia. It's the quiet confidence that lets you face the blackout without becoming another story told long after the power comes back. If you want a deeper dive into blackout tactics, gear, and psychological tricks that actually work, just say the word.